It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. It's Thursday. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good.
All right.
You want an oldie but goodie?
All right, why not?
We talked about this years ago, and the left is coming back on it again. The liberal outlet Mother Jones republished an article from the liberal The Guardian on Saturday that argued while dogs may be men's best friends, they're Mother Nature's villains. They highlighted research, they say new research, that concluded that dogs have extensive environmental impacts, disturbing wildlife, polluting waterways, and contributing to carbon emissions.
Because they drive nothing but SUVs. Everybody knows that.
I just did theater of the mind. I had the dog behind the wheel in my mind driving an SUV down the roadway.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that is not new. They had said this years ago that the radicals that really pets should be removed.
Pets and don't have children.
Don't have children.
Don't have a family.
Don't have pets.
Yeah. Don't have a significant other. Don't date.
The other thing is, remember, don't smoke pot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't vape. One of the worst things for climate change is weed. So stop it now and save the planet. Get rid of your dog, get rid of your weed, get rid of your cat.
And sit there alone like you deserve.
Get rid of your SUV. Right. Live my life.
Right. You have a cat.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Cat's trying to figure out how to get rid of you. It's like, yeah, it's a nice house, and I could take it over. I'm going to do some things.
I've got a cat now, and I've got the ducks.
Yeah.
Remember last year? The duck laid eggs twice.
Did it?
On my property last year. It's the same duck.
Mm.
I can tell by the wounds. And when this year rolled around, we got to spring. There I was laying in bed, and every morning I hear this quack, 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 and I just said, just leave me alone, whatever. I didn't want to get up. And finally, one day I was up, and I heard the quack, 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 and I went outside, and it was the duck, I believe, calling me. And she was sitting there. I realized, oh, my gosh, it's the same duck from last year. And she comes running up within like 10 feet away from me and quack, 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 and then turns around and goes away. And all of a sudden, about 3 weeks ago, there she is, the nest in the exact same spot as last year. And 2 days ago, 9 baby ducks.
All right.
And they're all alive 2 days later, which they didn't make it for 3 days last time. So I've got ducks and a cat.
All right.
Man, my life is pitiful.
That's wildlife.
That's true.
They're taking over.
So there you go. Dogs are bad for the environment. Get rid of your dogs. Otherwise, you are destroying the human race and Mother Earth.
Well, your children, all of your pets, no driving, no going anywhere, no working. You can't be productive.
No going up into space.
No.
My gosh, we didn't even...
Space chicks are surprised that everybody's criticizing them. Gail is saddened by the criticism. She's saddened. So let's do a recount of the morning shows. Stephanopoulos isn't happy, and Gail is saddened. There's your follow-up on the morning shows in America. She's saddened. You know, but
she claims it's sexism, but from what I can see,
it's liberals.
It's the liberals in Hollywood that are upset. One of the reasons, I forgot the actress's name, said there are so many other problems, and they're worried about going up in space, and then climate change, and all of this, and they're going up in space, and the car, and I'm like, Wow, this
Well,
is great.
the climate change thing really took off. It was like, how can you even believe that this is a good thing? You know, doing this just for a joyride. You're not doing any science on this ride, so you know. I mean, it's
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it.
it's what we've been saying about the left. They don't believe it. If Gail and Katy Perry bought into the environmental BS, they never would have got on that ship. That wouldn't have happened. They would have said no. I politely decline. I can watch Star Trek and get the same thing. Sit really close to the TV.
Well, the thing is, it was like when I saw it, I went, "Oh, that's nice." You know, just like the previous ones that have gone up. When Shatner went up, it was like, "Well, that's nice."
When Shatner went up, it had a significance because of all of his years in Star Trek, and it's like, okay, you didn't get him to space, but you almost did.
But with everything going on, I never thought about it. Probably most people on the right didn't. They're like, "Oh, okay, that's would I do that if I had a chance?" And maybe that kind of thought went through people's minds. And all of a sudden, boom! There's Gail out there. I just can't believe this and the sexism that's involved in this. And this is just pure sexism and pure sexism and pure sexism.
Well, they thought they were heroes.
Was it her, or was it one of the other, or was it Katy Perry or whoever who tried to compare themselves to Alan Shepard going up?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Wow. That's when you should stop talking. Yeah. No. No.
65 years of technology has changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
The book that they might want to read would be "Failure is Not an Option."
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
what really went on, especially during Mercury, that they were living on the edge. They thought they were going to lose.
Right.
They really thought there was an expectation because they were racing the Russians. There was an expectation that Americans were going to die in Mercury.
Well, and it was widely known in terms of all of the work that was going in to make those missions happen. Today's generation doesn't really pay attention to any of that. They don't look at all of the work, all of the sacrifices that are made, to make things like that happen. They don't. Far too often, we don't appreciate the work. We just don't. And, that's where you get to comparing yourself to the pioneers of space exploration. Did you do something cool? Yeah.
That's
Did it compare to that? No.
Well, I have told the story of me going up with the Thunderbirds in an F-16.
Mm-hmm.
I was I did the same thing as Chuck Yeager.
Wow, the Wright brothers.
Right, wait a minute, the Wright brothers. That's right.
Yeah. The pioneer.
The Wright brothers, Chuck Yeager, Alan Shepard, Gary McNamara.
Yeah, right there.
I don't know why, but all of a sudden with them. I thought of the Seinfeld episode right there when George got hired by the Yankees.
Yeah.
And Jerry's going, Ruth?
Yeah.
Garrick? Costanza?
Yeah. It's, but it is that, I don't know if it's generational or if it's just, it's a mindset where you don't understand everything that goes, truly don't understand everything that goes into, well, the history, basically the building blocks that made it so that they could go up on their joyride.
Yeah. But I was, again, what I love is a story where I look at it and go, whatever. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, a couple days later, the thing blows up, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is entertainment. Because it was entertaining.
What I saw yesterday morning is, Gail is saddened by the criticism. I'm like, okay, everybody, stop what you're doing, because Gail is saddened. You know, like Stephanopoulos isn't happy. Oh, no. Everybody calm down. Don't say anything. Don't look him in the eye. It's. I just thought to myself, you know.
Smoochie, was it Smoochie? No.
Something.
Smoochie's husband?
Schmoopy.
Yeah. Schmoopy's husband.
Yeah.
Again, Allie Wentworth, who was the Schmoopy.
We're going to tie it back to Seinfeld any way we can.
Right. Schmoopy episode of Seinfeld is George Stephanopoulos' wife, if people didn't know that.
Right. And, you know, you think about all of that that's happened. You know, again, the thing with the space chicks. I love that everybody's calling them space chicks. Is that if they believed in the climate change stuff in the first place, that would have been their first concern, right? I don't want you wasting all of these resources, polluting the atmosphere, killing the planet for my joyride. Thank you, but no thank you. You either stand on your convictions or you don't. Period.
Could you imagine the criticism if they would have brought a couple of dogs up with them?
Right. Oh, forget it. Yeah.
It's and what a bad day it was for Democrats yesterday. I mean, it was just. We've got some great audio. Letitia James.
Oh my gosh.
That's going to be great.
Wow.
I've played it like 5 or 6 times just to listen to it and just laughing during the whole thing going, so she never addressed the charges against her and said, I didn't do that.
Right.
Right. It's just, wow.
It was, you know, all the anti-Trump stuff and, you know, this grandstanding kind of attitude, but nothing to address the actual charges here.
And
which is the first thing you would do. The first thing I would do if I were innocent, if it came out in the media of all of those things, because I'd be paranoid about something actually happening, legal actions actually being taken against me if I indeed were innocent.
Oh, yeah.
And if I was an attorney general of a state, I'd be prepared with the evidence to prove it right there to the media immediately. Here is my defense. Here is the proof that I did nothing wrong and that this is just retaliation.
Could you imagine if an attorney general was a Republican of a state and gave the speech that she gave yesterday?
Oh, forget it. The Republicans would be angry.
Could you imagine that? Because that had nothing to do with her being an attorney general.
Right.
That had to do with her being an absolute, not even, and I know people might say, well, yeah, you know, most attorney generals are partisans. Not necessarily. If you look at it, you've had more Republicans that are not partisan to the Republican Party attorney generals and we could name a bunch of them, starting with Bill Barr. And we'll see, you know, Bondi has been in long enough to find out where she stands and whether, you know, she will actually behave like she said, which is, I'm independent of the presidency. You know, we'll see.
Well, you could say in Texas, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, is anti at least one Republican because he's going to take him on for the Senate seat, John Cornyn.
Yes.
I don't know if that completely supports your point.
Yeah, but the speech she gave with the tone, you just don't hear from attorney generals of states ever.
No.
And I think most people looked at that and went, oh, my God, she's panicking big time. That's the message that I got with that. And then all the information coming out on Garcia, the specifics took every single argument that the Democrats had away. And Chris Van Hollen, you know, going there. And I'm like, wow, it's the Democrats keep digging a bigger hole and a bigger hole.
Yeah.
The only people that Democrats right now are attempting to appease is the far left. And I mean the far insane left. Think about this in the past couple of weeks. The defending of Garcia, now they've got nothing to say anymore because now that the specifics are out.
Right.
You know, and we'll get to the specifics of it coming up. Now that that's out, it's like, whoa, you've got Sanders, you've got AOC, who are the leaders now. of the Democratic Party. They are the political leaders of the party. They're nuts. And it's just, they just keep digging a big hole. And politically, where they might be able to go after Trump, they're not doing it.
No, they're not.
They're really not doing. They're just in a complete emotional rage nightmare is where they are.
Yeah, they really are.
So we got a great show ahead. Man, just so much to talk about here today. I went to sleep, and I was going to stay up a little longer, and I went, you can't. You got to go to sleep now, because what happens to me is there's so much stuff going on that when I, 4 or 5 o'clock, go to lay down to go to sleep, I start thinking of everything.
Oh, the past month has been
and it's
bonkers.
And it's just my mind's going all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, what should we do here? And I got to talk about this.
Right.
And it was like, no, I'm done with news. It was like 2:30. I said, I'm done with the news. I'm not going to watch for an hour and a half, because I got to be able to, at 4 or 4:30, go to sleep. Then I wake up at 10 o'clock and go, oh, my God, look at all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't stay up. All right, great show ahead, 866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold weather takes a toll on trucks. As warmer weather rolls in, it's time to assess the impact winter has had on your vehicle before you find yourself stranded roadside this spring. If you're experiencing sluggish cranking, start your spring maintenance routine by having your electrical system tested by a professional technician. Your batteries, alternator, and starter have been working overtime to keep up with cold starts and thick oil during winter. Continuing to crank a vehicle with low voltage will lead to more damage and downtime later on. Big rigs are big investments. Take care of yours now to help avoid downtime later and keep rolling through to next winter.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. And then, you just said it to me during the break. You went, and then the Supreme Court of Great Britain. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh my gosh, that was yesterday. I woke up to that one, and it's so far. That seems like that story is 4 or 5 days old. Mm-hmm. But Britain's top court ruled that those born female only those born female can be considered women.
Wow.
The decision Wednesday by UK Supreme Court came after a years-long legal fight over the definition of a woman in a 2010 equality law, and could have far-reaching implications for the protections and freedoms given to transgender women in the UK. That, according to the Wall Street Journal. The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act of 2010 referred to biological women and biological sex, said the court's deputy president. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's like, duh.
It's science.
But it's
we're gonna rule on the side of science, biology. And for here in the States, the Democrats, the party of science, which is laughable. It's just, again, more and more things around the world where people are looking, and saying, all right, we can't keep up this charade on a number of fronts, and that was one of them. And the Supreme Court in Britain deciding only women can be women. You got to be born a woman.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here. So I'm looking at the picture of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
With the
cigar.
It's a cigar.
It's not a blunt.
It's not a blunt. Read what she said. Do you
All
have
right,
that?
So, yeah, she posted on her X page. It was after the Britain Supreme Court made the decision that only women who are born women can be women. And she posted it originally several hours ago. I love it when a plan comes together. It's a picture of her on a beach somewhere. She may own the entire island. I don't know where she is. But she's got some kind of drink in her hand. It could be tea. You know, she is from that part of the world.
It could be tea.
And she's got a cigar that she's smoking. She's actually taking a puff in the picture. Then she reposted it about an hour after that and said, to those celebrating the fact that I'm smoking a blunt, it's a cigar. Even if it decided to identify as a blunt for the purpose of this celebration, it would remain objectively, provably, and demonstratively a cigar.
And it's not just you reading it. I'm looking at the picture as you're reading it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it has such a great impact.
And now it has me wonder if it's that. I didn't even question it the first time I saw it. Now I have to question if it's really a cigar.
Yeah,
It's great.
I mean, it was, and then she posted, some of the people that are furious, about it. She goes, UK authorities warn that due to unprecedented demand, national supplies of cope are running dangerously low. COPE, not coke.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like she posts somebody who's just nuts. A woman could be a variety of different things. The Supreme Court is wrong. You think about it. Yesterday was just a microcosm of the insanity of the left. It really was.
Yeah, it really was. If you think about it, I don't know what I expected for that case, with Britain's Supreme Court. I don't know what I expected from them. But when it came down and it was unanimous, it was like, okay, there is some critical thinking. In a part of the world where you wonder, has it all gone? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, but we've seen this before, maybe not at this level, maybe not the Supreme Court of a nation making decisions necessarily, but lawmakers and leaders in other parts of the world making decisions on climate change things, saying, we can't keep going down this road. I mean, they're still getting it wrong for the most part. But there are countries that are looking at it saying, we've got to correct something here. We've got to bring back sanity when it comes to providing energy for the public. And, it's a glimmer of hope. It's, again, still going for the most part in the wrong direction. But what will change that is people going without energy.
Well, when I just looked at yesterday, it was the topics that are all 80-20 to the American public.
Mm-hmm.
The Supreme Court of Great Britain related to the Department of Justice now going after Maine.
Yeah.
And they're like, bring it on. You're not going to win this.
Right.
Go ahead. And so that related to that particular story.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the anti-Semitism being brought up again at the major universities that we'll get to later on, which is obvious, but that's more of the insanity and more Democrats doubling down on it. And it's just like, you can't win this.
Right.
And so you've got the radical transgender movement and the misogyny there, which is just, it's nuts. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Then you've got the anti-Semitism, which is the identity politics of the left that is blowing up in their face. And then you've got the Garcia story.
Yeah.
Just so much information, specific information came out, and it came out as Senator Van Hollen was over there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden all of this comes out, and it's like the left goes completely quiet because every question that they were asking, well, how do you know this? Well, we know it because of this, and we'll get into the specifics of it here in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We know it because of this, and this.
And they were only repeating certain phrases.
Yeah.
Well, it's not proven. It hasn't been proven. Hasn't been proven. Hasn't been proven. And actually, you look at it, and with what was thrown down yesterday, everything that came out yesterday, that's the thing that will stifle any silly argument in this case. And a political argument that the left is not going to win.
Yeah, and then more, seeing Letitia James out there.
Oh, my gosh.
And the screaming. And I'm just...
Yeah.
And by the time, like I said, I woke up and at 10 o'clock, by the time I took my shower, got ready, scanned my phone, I just went, what an insane day for liberals.
Yeah.
Absolutely insanity as to the things that they think that are not based in any type of critical thinking, aren't based in any type of reality. It's just, it was...
Well, it seems like that these cases are all going. Anybody remember Fannie Willis? Think about that. If you look at Letitia James and the Fannie Willis, it's like things are imploding. The credibility of these individuals going after Trump. And we know that all of these cases, they're all different cases, all different people, but they were all based in nothing. Nothing. We said all along, if there's anything in any of these cases, it would probably be the presidential records, and there might be a concern there, and ultimately that went nowhere. There was nothing in any of these major cases, and Letitia James, her case against Trump had the ability to scare off business in the state of New York for a long time.
Yeah.
I think to some extent, I don't know if it's ever how it could be measured even, but I think to some extent it's likely happened already that people made different decisions thinking, oh my gosh, if we go in to negotiate something, and we could be looking at just a simple negotiation could be seen in her eyes as trying to gain favorable terms, which according to her is against the law.
Right. But the difference between the accusations against Trump, these were just appraisals. This wasn't the mortgage application backed by a federal agency where you cannot, if you put down something that's false, that's fraud.
And the appraisals even had disclaimers.
Right. But the appraisal...
Do your own due diligence.
An appraisal is not an official government mortgage application. Or loan application that's backed by the federal government.
It's not even backed by the lender because the lender does their own appraisal.
Right. And so that's the thing that when we saw it yesterday, we went, and everybody went, whoa. And so it's like, okay, is she going to come out today? Because that's what you look for. Is she going to come out today and say, I never did any of these things?
Right.
She's screaming. We'll play it coming up here following the top of the hour. But she's screaming. She's ranting, like a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that sounds like she's panicked.
Whoa.
Yeah, that sounds like panic.
Because the first thing, as you said, the first thing I would do and you would do is come out and say, these things are completely and totally false.
Yeah.
In fact, here's my application. Here it is right here. I kept it. Here it is. It doesn't exist.
I would have everything for the media to examine and say, I did nothing wrong. This is simple. This is a very simple and clear case of retaliation, and here's the proof that I did nothing wrong in each of these cases. I would make sure, because I would want to clear my name and also set the legal tone to make sure that I would never, ever be prosecuted on something I didn't do.
And why? Because when you decide to go, and that's what we have decided to do, to go into the public arena, what you do, you and I have often said this, The difference between this and any other job is you sign your name to it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are our real names.
Mm-hmm.
We're not using fake. It's not like when, if you were a DJ and you used, hi, I'm Apple Man or
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Jumpin' Jack. Right. You put your name to it. And when
By the way, that was my birth name, and I changed it to go into talk radio. Thought it was just too silly.
Well, you were a Stones fan. But there's a thing that and I was raised in this. It's why, you and I talked about when politicians lie, and they're obvious lies. Do their family or friends ever go up to them and say, stop this?
Right.
You're destroying our family name.
Right.
Look, if you want to be a Democrat, fine. If you want to be whatever political affiliation you are, fine. Don't lie.
Right.
And we always ask, is there any shame? Because where I come from, if I'm lying, my friends will call me out.
Mm-hmm.
Friends of mine listen to the show. If I lie, if I'm sitting there going, here's my opinion on this issue, and that didn't happen, they're going to be the first to say, don't do that.
All my buddies from Del Rio on that thread that's been going on for, over 20 years, somewhere around there, I would start getting questions immediately. So how's it going? And if we had a reunion in person, they'd hold court.
Yep. And my family would be the first.
Yeah. I have to call my dad. I've said this, I don't know how many times. At the end of the day, I got to call my dad. My dad is a seasoned, well-trained investigator. And when he starts with a simple question, as investigators most often do, so how's it going? I'd know. I mean, if he does that mundane of a question, just kind of a ambiguous question to set the table, I know that he wants to know something. It hasn't happened since I had long hair. But there's a reason it hasn't happened, because I know at the end of the day, I have to answer to him.
Yeah.
He and my mother have always been my true north. They're the ones that I understand, that I know. I go home. My wife, the same thing. My wife has the same tone as my father, and it's the same thing. So, how's it going?
What did you mean?
It would be, I would have to answer to it.
Could you explain what you meant yesterday by saying this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I just want to be clear. I mean, I caught it halfway through, and, we're questioned like it all the time, and we've always asked, do these people, when they're absolute pathological liars, when what's his name? When Mayorkas was saying the border was secure.
Oh, my gosh.
Did any of his family come up to him and say, or any of his friends and say, why are you lying like this?
Right.
It's an obvious lie.
Why
Everybody knows you're
that?
lying.
Why are you saying that?
I mean, you get into a position in government, and I'm just like, all I have is my name.
Right.
My name is more important than money.
Right.
You accuse me of wrongdoing, and I know it's not true.
Right.
I mean, I'm absolutely ballistic, not just ranting and raving, but showing you the evidence that what I've been accused of is completely wrong. And I will spend every dollar to do that. I can always earn money. I can't get my name back.
Well, it's something simple. Did you eat all of the Fig Newtons, honey? Now, I'm going to say no, because technically I didn't. There's more at the store. There's a lot more at the store. Technically, I didn't eat all of them, but I did eat that entire package. There's no way to get away with it in life if you're an honest person and those around you expect you to be an honest person. If they don't, I mean, I don't know what your relationship is like, and, I can't speak to that. But in my relationships, all of them, people are going to start asking questions immediately.
And that's where I look and say, are we in a different culture?
Right.
Because it's like,
right,
everyone knows what you're saying is a lie.
Right.
Doesn't your family or friends say anything to you? 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we've got audio cuts galore on everything coming up from just an insane day yesterday. One of the other things is, did you see Taylor Lorenz, former Washington Post reporter, on with Sean Hannity? I mean, it was just like,
wow.
And this was because of the podcast where she was just gleeful and joyful about Luigi Mangione and the supporters. And so he asked her to say that assassinations like this are wrong. She won't do it. I mean, that's, like I said, that added to the insanity of the left yesterday.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Looking at the Babylon Bee headlines. Oh, just brutal. Absolutely brutal. American hostages in Gaza disguise themselves as MS-13 gang members so Democrats will fight to bring them home.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah.
They've been absolutely brutal the last couple of days.
Yeah. One of our listeners sent me the meme of Chris Van Hollen after returning from El Salvador, and he has all the gang tattoos on his face. You know, it's, again, we have to ask for the Democrats, this is the hill you want to die on. But it is. Yeah. Anything that, I mean, the radicals are burning EVs and fighting for gang members who were here illegally to be brought home, which technically is what Trump did. Trump took them home. They are not going to be brought home. Home is where they are. He's a citizen of that nation.
Here is Pam Bondi on this yesterday. All right.
All right.
What the Attorney General had to say on this.
Mm-hmm. This is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13. And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now, here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice, getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her. She talked about her child in the petition for an injunction for safety. Ultimately, she didn't show up for court. That's your typical domestic violence victim. But this victim was even braver because she was married to one of the top MS-13 members who was illegally in our country.
There you go. That's Attorney General yesterday. Department of Homeland Security, you and I have been going over the stuff from the Department of Homeland Security, released new documents. According to the Prince George County Police Department interview sheet shared with Fox News by Department of Homeland Security, local police discovered Garcia during a murder investigation. Police found him loitering in a Home Depot parking lot with other known MS-13 gang members in possession of illegal drugs in 2019. The police department's gang unit, MS-13 Intelligence Squad. So this is the police department's gang unit MS-13 Intelligence Squad.
Right.
Specifically for MS-13, conducted an interview with Garcia and contacted a past and proven reliable source who identified him as an active member of MS-13 with the Western Clique, with the rank of Chicao, and as Bondi just said.
That means high ranking.
Yeah, high ranking, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The news comes as Democrats clamor for the return of Garcia, who they say was wrongly deported to a maximum security prison in his home country as part of the Trump administration's effort to crack down on illegal migrant crime. Let me see, get to more here. What else did they get here? I'm just trying to look at it here because there were all the court cases. Here we go. According to, let me just see here. On Wednesday, the Department of Homeland Security doubled down, saying that Garcia has a history of violence and was not the upstanding Maryland man the media has portrayed him as. The DHS shared court filings in which his wife sought a domestic violence restraining order against him. And a 2019 DHS interview document shared with Fox News by the Department of Homeland Security shows Garcia admitted to being in the United States illegally and claimed to have walked across the desert for many days, entering illegally into the United States near McAllen, Texas, around March 25th, 2012. As a result, Garcia was marked as eligible for deportation in 2019. Let me see. A federal immigration court in Baltimore further determined that Garcia was not eligible for release into the United States because he failed to meet his burden of demonstrating that his release from custody would not pose a danger to others, as evidence shows that he is a verified member of MS-13. That came from the federal immigration court. The court held that the fact that a past proven and reliable source of information verified the respondent's gang membership rank and the gang name is sufficient to support the respondent is a gang member, and that Garcia had failed to present evidence to rebut that assertion. Garcia is not a Maryland man or a Maryland dad. He is an MS-13 gang member involved in human trafficking who entered the United States illegally, DHS posted on X. Also, I believe, wasn't there an appeals court that also said the same thing?
Yeah. 2 different judges found that he was a member of MS-13. Those findings have never been disturbed, which means his lawyers didn't ever work to discount that. His current lawyers saying it's not true, but that's never been challenged actually in court, those findings from those other judges.
Right. Now, you would expect, I haven't seen the goalpost move yet, he wasn't convicted. You don't have to be convicted.
No, you don't.
Right. You can be a gang member without being convicted of anything.
Right.
And when you're illegally in this country to begin with, Democrats, please stop it. You look like idiots. Well, this is not the first time.
Well, again, all the hills to die on, this is it. But it is no surprise when you look at the entire picture. These are the same people that are saying Luigi is a hero.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they be fighting to bring violent gang members back to the U.S.? Of course they would. This is who they are. If you vote that way, you support that kind of behavior, you may say, I don't agree with it. If you vote that way, yeah, you do. Because that's where the party is.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anybody call AOC from the left, from any Democrats call AOC out when she was talking about the murder of Brian Thompson and trying to justify it by saying, well, sometimes when people have their claims denied because he was a healthcare CEO, they see that as an act of violence. I didn't see any Democrats call her out. And it's morbid where they are as a party, where they are as a movement. In fact, it goes beyond radical. If you think that way, you're just pure evil. The lead singer, what was it? Was he the singer of the Circle Jerks?
Yeah.
At Coachella?
Yep.
We need an army of Luigis. This is how they think. So it's no surprise that they're fighting to return a known violent gang member of MS-13 back to the U.S. where he doesn't belong.
Well, it's interesting because you and I mentioned how Mr. Serpent, James Carville, is out there saying the Democrats got to stop with the identity politics. They've got to be mainstream. The pronoun thing, we just read an article from him yesterday. And then you get this. Carville this week urged Democrats to continue to go after Donald Trump to return a Maryland man to the U.S. whom officials wrongly deported to an El Salvador prison. Mm-hmm. That comes from the Huffington Post.
Right.
So that's what.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to fight on two fronts, said the longtime Democratic strategist.
Wow.
So even he, who's saying they have to moderate, is now promoting that the Democrats stand on an absolutely insane position.
Yeah.
There are no moderates in the Democratic Party anymore.
They don't try and become
exist.
one. Yeah, don't try and become one either. Yeah. Whoever is saying they need to, who was it? What's his name? Former mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. There's this thought that he might, if he's going to run in 2028, he might again try and move the party back to the center. Governor Shapiro. Same thing, trying to position himself because he's known for trying to position himself as a moderate. He's not, we don't believe he's a moderate. But if that's the case, and he were to try and do that while running, if he ever ran for president, the radicals are not going to, they're not going to accept that. And, it's insane where they are. It's October 7th. Was so much more, I've said it, I don't know how many times. I said it the night of October 7th when we came in the first show after October 7th, that there's the radicals on one side, everybody else on the other. There's no middle ground. But that's the case on so many issues, not just the morbid, insanely over-the-top anti-Semitism on full display that these universities are fighting to keep in play legally. We're coming after your children. We want an army of Luigis, and by gosh, you better bring those illegal aliens who are violent gang members back to the U.S. That's their positions.
I know.
That's far beyond radical. That's a new level of insanely evil.
Well, and we're the radicals.
Right.
You guys are out of touch with the mainstream. You guys are right-wingers.
Yeah.
Oh, see the one comedian who said the rebranding of core American values as right-wing is the craziest thing he's ever heard, Tim Dillon.
Yeah.
He's got a Netflix special coming up. Mm-hmm. Oh, we'll hit on that, too, because when you think about it, because I got one of the other, you guys are just, we get it from occasionally from Democrats, the emails, and you guys are just crazy right-wingers. Name one position, as we have said, that's crazy. One.
Right.
You can't.
No.
You can throw out the accusation. You can't back it up with facts. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one-truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Then I saw this story. We'll get to everything. It's just there's just so much out there.
So much.
As I said, this was yesterday was a horrible day for Democrats across the board on all the issues where it's 80-20 against them. And then this in the Washington Examiner. The left now thinks that women are physically stronger than men. It's the culture that has made them not physically stronger than men. The thinking behind the stronger sex, what science tells us about the power of the female body, a forthcoming book by Star Vartan. It argues that women are actually the physically stronger sex, but the culture brainwashes them to think they are weak. And then right here from the Washington Examiner, Mark Judge, it's a nonsense argument that the left and the media are going to love. Expect to see Vartan on CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times. Of course, the argument that women are as strong as men is nonsense. Vartan, a social justice activist, argues that when she was young, the culture force-fed her about the rules about what may soon to be a woman's body could and couldn't do. Those rules came from TV shows, schools, and the way above grade level horror books that I read. I was not told only how weak I was and all females were, but also that I defied those social norms. I would be a weirdo. I was a girl, so I was less strong in all ways, but especially physically. My sisters weren't raised that way. That's not what they were taught in school. The women, and I went to school a long, long time ago.
Right. Uphill both ways. Horse and
yeah.
carriage to get there.
I went to school in 30-foot drifts uphill to school both ways.
Both ways, yeah. Every day. Even in the summer, 30-foot drifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask questions.
Right.
You don't know what it was like back then.
Right.
You weren't there.
And we always tell the truth because we stamp our name to
That's
the
right.
show every day.
We have to answer to our dads. So we never vary from the truth. Stop your Googling. Stop it right now.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when you choose. It's so convenient. It's free, and tariffs will not affect the Red Eye Radio app.
That's right.
In any way.
Right. For all of our Canadian listeners, tell them you live in the States.
Comedian Tim Dillon pushed back on the claim that comedians have undergone a rightward shift in recent years and questioned why core American values such as free speech are being rebranded as right-wing. In a sit-down interview with Fox News Digital, Dillon was asked about the perceived shift to the right in comedians' political views. Dillon took issue with the observation, arguing that values comedians typically support today, such as free speech and advocating for the middle class, are not inherently right-wing. You know, when people call it a rightward shift, my pushback is that were these statements rightward in 2015 or 2005? When did they become right-wing statements? When did it become a right-wing statement to say I should be able to have choices?
Right.
You know, the one thing is when you look at it, because, you know, we get it once in a while, not as much as we used to, but we still get it. You know, you radical right-wingers. It's like, okay, that's an insult.
Mm-hmm.
What they're trying to say is somehow the opinions that we hold are just way out of the mainstream and weird. And you look at just today and the issues of today. Man and a woman. That's biological science. That's not a radical position. A radical position is trying to say that a man can be a woman and a biological woman because the man says so.
Right.
And there is confusion now in the radical transgender movement. Well, we're talking gender again. No, you can't say that, because if you're just talking gender and not sex, then no one in the radical transgender community would be advocating that men play against women in sports.
Right.
You'd simply say gender is different than sex. That used to be your opinion until it changed.
Well, to Tim Dillon, because he, in this conversation, talked about vaccines and, pointing out that people on the left, there are plenty of people on the left that didn't want to get a vaccine. We saw that during COVID. And that was going to be a line drawn by a number of people. And it didn't mean, and, he's talking about comedians too, but it didn't mean that, like, when Dave Chappelle took on the liberal transgender movement, that Dave Chappelle is right wing. Or he brings up Dylan is friends with Joe Rogan, and we said, well, it doesn't mean Joe Rogan is a conservative. Anti-war things. He brought that up. When is it right? Since when is it right wing to be anti-war? I remember when these things were things promoted by the left. Well, and the middle class, working for the middle class. Well, the Democrats, Tim, are no longer the middle class worker party. They just haven't been for a while. And I don't think that makes you necessarily right-wing. We've been very clear when we have conversations about any of these people, especially stand-up comedians, that say these things. When they point out the obvious, it's just, for us, it's just an observation, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, Tim Dillon is an openly gay liberal, and it's that I would never take anything that he says as pointing in any direction politically, because I know that he's a liberal. We know that.
Look at Carlin.
Carlin. Joe Rogan has talked about he had Elon Musk, and they were both talking about how each other have become more conservative in recent years, and you can make that case. Is it exclusively right-wing? I don't think Joe Rogan is exclusively right-wing on issues.
No, he's not at all.
And you have, and I say that in order, to kind of temper sometimes the conservatives who want to rebrand whoever it might be in the news as someone who is now a conservative. Are they more critical thinkers? Are they doing some critical thinking? Yeah. Do they have positions that I agree with now and they didn't have those positions before? Yeah. But I don't, you and I have always been careful about branding people. But the left, though, this is where really is I think where Tim Dillon is asking the question. The left brands you as, Chuck Schumer, a continuing resolution. Well, he's got to be MAGA then, right? He goes along with Trump on a continuing resolution, not an abortion bill, but a continuing resolution, and he should be out. But that's where the Democrats are. That's where the left is. This isn't about whether, you're branded this or that. It's how the left reacts to anything and everything.
When you think about it, because, we're viewed as radicals and, by the left, and it's like, well, what are our positions? Mm-hmm. We're against hating Jews. Mm-hmm. We're against hating anybody. We're against judging people by groups. We judge people as individuals. That is viewed as a radical position. As you know, remember, it's the left that's come out and said, if you believe in the autonomy of the individual, which is individualism, that is a product of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. So all the things that we talk about, you want radical. Radical is when you take the definition of something and turn it upside down, and it becomes the opposite of what it once was. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Radicalism is when you claim to be, I promote anti-racism, yet it's actually racism.
Right.
But when you think of the things that, that we believe, and just looking at, the topics of today, a man cannot be a woman because the man says so. That's not even a political position. Mm-hmm. That's a scientific position.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do with it. We think it's radical. We think it's radical for people on the left. You and I remember the Berkeley professor with Josh Hawley when he was asking questions about being a transgender. What does this mean? And she said, well, do you believe men can get pregnant? He goes, well, no, men can't get pregnant. See, you're transphobic. What are you talking about? Explain further. No, you asking me to explain further is horrible because transgenders have one of the highest rates of committing suicide. He goes, and so you're saying that if I ask these questions that people will commit suicide? Are you saying that they have mental challenges that we should be concerned with before we start cutting off body parts and advocating that children have the ability to cut off their body parts, and you're acknowledging that they have one of the greatest rates of suicide? Well, you're the radical. You're the one that's nuts. The opinions that we have are actually the opinions that are about caring for an individual and what may be going through their mind and whether they do have mental challenges that need professional help. And you're saying, no, professional help isn't needed, as you're acknowledging they have mental challenges. And your solution is children should be able to cut off their body parts
Right.
if they have these mental challenges.
Right.
Well, that's nuts. And then, as we said, the anti-Semitism, the promotion of terrorist groups, what we saw after October 7th, the whole Garcia thing. When we look at this here, I mean, it's just the opinions that they hold, they're the radical ones to sit there and say we need to protect our border is not a radical position.
Yeah. Right.
And so all the positions that we hold are, by history standards, common sense, rational, critical thinking issues. The opinions that we all hold, that's where they are.
Yeah.
And so I just, it's amazing when, Tim Dillon comes on and says rebranding the core American values as right wing. Now, I don't agree with it all. I think that on economics, there's a populist portion of the Republican Party right now that believes that central planning is the best way, and I would disagree with that in a free society.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I disagree with economics that protects the security of the United States that may not be viewed along the lines of absolute capitalism. Yeah, that I understand when it comes to the security and whatever. And if people are involved in unfair trade practices. But the fact that people believe, and there's a growing belief, that a central planning from the government of Republicans that may be different than how Democrats do it still will bring us to success, I would disagree with. But those aren't radical positions. Those are simply economic arguments.
Yeah. Right.
Neither is a radical position
Right.
because they've been held for the longest time by both sides and are viewed as mainstream
Right.
by both sides.
Right.
But just, you look at it and it's just, and that's why I say yesterday, and when I woke up and saw all the news that happened before I went to, that weren't there when I went to sleep yesterday, I just said, got to make sure we make the note that yesterday was a microcosm of the insanity of the left. It really was just,
it really was.
The complete insanity.
Yeah, it really is. And again, over and over again, they have proven how radical they are by what they're fighting for. You don't even have to go out of your way. You don't have to go and look for it because they'll bring that fight to you. The Democrats have been fighting in this on this radical side for quite some time, and you don't have to go anywhere to look for it. It's everywhere. It's right there in front of you every day. This is what scares us about the midterm the most, and 2028 and beyond. They still have tens of millions of people that will vote for them. The radical agenda is far from done.
Well, you look at any of the, right now, the AOC and Bernie Sanders rallies that are going on, and you shake your head, you're saying, are these, and I'm not saying this in a mean way. You look at it and you go, are they that ignorant? Are they just that stupid?
Right. Or are they just as radical as any of them?
Yeah. But the radicalness of what they believe is either based in ignorance, stupidity, or insanity.
Mm-hmm. All the above. And evil in their hearts.
Yeah.
Anybody that believes,
because you want control no matter what. You want power and control.
That's it.
However you can get it.
Well, they're coming after your children.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that stuff is evil.
They now
and
want to
perverted.
deem that abuse if you disagree with your child's gender preference. They want to come after you. They're not done. All they need is a few more votes.
Yeah. They're not
Think
far.
about the seat difference in the House and the Senate.
Yep.
That's all they need.
They're not that far from being in power.
Nope.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here's a question. The rest of this week and next week, will the Garcia story disappear?
I think it is. I think it's, I think that the pivot away from it has already begun.
Well, let me put it this way. The story is still going to be out there because
the left is going to change what they do. Yeah, how they
right, because the story is going to be out there because it's inside the legal the legal process right now, and what the judge has said, and so it may go up to the Supreme Court again to figure out what the meaning of the word facilitate is.
Yeah.
As we said, to make easier, as we had to go to the definition of it yesterday. But are you going to have Democrats, after the information came out, the specific information about the immigration judges and what they said about Garcia? This is where my mind gets warped at times, because I look at it and say, obviously Democrats can't support this anymore. The hell they can't.
Well, someone posted on X the CNN panel where Tiffany Cross declared, well, we can't make it about Kilmar. That's just one person. They want to make it about all illegal aliens, basically the entire group now. They want to move away from this one. Well, the pivot has begun. There you have it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And we sort of make up the show known as Red Eye Radio.
By that, you don't mean we're making it up as we go along. We as the two individuals, constitute the program.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the clarification there.
Right. We don't make it up as we go along. We make it up far in advance.
Exactly.
It's called show prep.
We have premeditated making up.
Yeah. We plan it out.
All right, so I did ask the question, will the Democrats shift? And then you said, well, didn't you see what happened on CNN with Tiffany Cross yesterday? The shift is already happening. And this is about the whole thing about Kilmar Garcia and all the information that has come out. From now we know two specific courts said, no, we viewed him as MS-13, which is why, because we asked a question yesterday before we knew the specifics of it. We said, well, wait a minute. If they're saying he can't go back to El Salvador because of a rival gang, they're admitting he's in a gang.
Yeah, right.
Right there. I mean, that was it right there. It was a rival. He can't go back because he may be in danger from a rival gang. If you're a normal person, why would you be in?
Right.
Gangs aren't interested unless you're in another gang.
Right.
Or they wish to steal from you, or they know you, and somehow they view you as anti what they want to do.
Right.
And so But everything that had come out yesterday, I said, Democrats, it's going to stay in the news, but they've got to pivot. You said they already did. It started already. Here it is. This is Michael Singleton, the Republican strategist, on with Tiffany Cross as he lays it out. And then listen to her response. Here we go. This is how you know the shift is happening.
I think it is a political issue. I also think it's a national security issue. Prince George's County in 2019, their gang unit determined that Garcia was an MS-13 gang member. His wife in 2021, the wife that's now giving lengthy testimonies about how great he is, said that he's a serial abuser, and she has a ton of photos to showcase said abuse. I agree, due process is absolutely important. We want to maintain that, but I think there's absolutely enough here to send this guy somewhere else. One, he's already broken the law. We've already established that. Now you do have evidence suggesting that he was a member or is a member of MS-13. He's also a serial abuser. This is not the type of individual I don't think any one of us would want in our country. He should be deported.
Respectfully, Sir Michael, we can't make it about Kilmar. Like, that's just one person.
That's the case we're talking about.
That is, but I guess if we look at the macro and not the micro.
Ding, 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 ding. We have a pivot.
There it is. Thank
Move
you.
on. Nothing to see here, folks. The bear out front should have told you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wish I would have seen that yesterday. I mean, that would have even added to my enjoyment of coming in. Now, I will admit, this is a surprise enjoyment right there.
Right.
Because it's like, well, after the information that came out, you got to back off of this.
Exactly.
You cannot stick with this.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're all going, I wonder what.
Well, we're not making it about one person. Yeah, you are. And you have been.
Exactly.
You remember Maryland man, Maryland dad? Remember that whole thing?
Oh,
I'm old enough to remember that.
Wow.
Yeah. If you're looking at the macro, not the micro. What?
We're not talking tariffs.
Exactly.
We're not talking economics.
Right. My gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love it. Because they have nowhere to go. And it was pretty clear, too. Just anecdotally, you and I both observing the same thing during the day yesterday. It was like, it just got quiet. It was like, oh, yeah. Okay. None of that looks good. We can't make the argument anymore. That's just one person. It really is. They're desperate to move on from it. It's and I'm glad the Department of Homeland Security laid all that out, all the facts about Garcia. They laid all that out, and because the left activist media wanted you to believe again that this was a U.S. citizen, a Maryland man, a Maryland dad. It's the reason that they use that phrasing. They even used it at Fox News in order to imply that he belongs here. And then when it came to the gang affiliation, there's no proof of that. There's no proof of that. There's no proof of that. While simultaneously, they cited the withholding order from 2019 that had the judge that acknowledged the concern by Garcia that he would be targeted in his home country by rival gangs.
So when you think about it, now that we have all this information, the immigration judge that said he can't be sent back to El Salvador was because he is a gang member.
Mm-hmm.
Not because he wasn't a gang member.
Right.
The decision was made based on the fact he is a gang member.
That he's a gang member.
And if he's shipped back to El Salvador and goes to prison, the rival gangs might come after him.
Right.
So it had nothing to do with his innocence. It had to do with the court made the decision based on the fact he's in MS-13.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, I'm just...
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, they can't win for losing.
No, but, it's not about one person. No, we'd like to get back to the conversation about the one person, please.
All right. We're to Thursday, almost to Friday.
Mm-hmm. Will any Democrats be fighting for Garcia by Friday, right?
Well,
the question?
Looks like the Garcia thing has blown up, and let's look at what are the other arguments that they're making. The anti-Semitism of Harvard.
Right.
You're gonna die on that hill?
Right.
Again?
Well, and still trying to, on the whole deportation thing, well, but somebody shouldn't be deported for freedom of speech.
Oh.
We were talking about Tim Dillon earlier saying, that basically comedians, he doesn't get why they're being branded right-wing if they have certain observations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then he said, he, in that same conversation on with Fox News Digital, he was talking about, I don't think someone should be deported because of free speech. Well, it's not just because of free speech, Tim. It's showing their affiliation with an enemy.
Yeah.
It is not just anti-Semitism, it's pro-Hamas.
Yeah, right. That wishes Israel's destruction and the United States. They're an official enemy of the United States.
You don't get to come here on a visa and show your support for the enemy of our country. Doesn't work that way.
Do you remember when the whole thing of immigration? We'd be going back. I think this is to Obama, and then they did the survey of Canadian citizens, and it was like, I don't know, it was 85 to 90% of Canadian citizens believed that anybody who came to their country for whatever, came to their country and wanted, a permanent residence or wanted to become a citizen, whatever, needs to share the values of Canadians.
Right.
It's like,
yeah. Exactly.
And it was at the time when, well, you should be able to come here and not share the values of Americans.
Right.
We need to have the Canadian system. And then they did this poll of Canadians.
Yeah, you should be.
Exact same thing.
You should hold our values. Yeah, because the leftist agenda is not well thought out. What they're using as a facade in many cases in terms of what they're trying to do, what their ultimate goal is, these are the things that go unsaid. They come off with under the guise of compassion or something noble. He's a Maryland dad, Gary.
With a family.
With a
Remember?
family.
He's
a family.
He's a Maryland dad. He's a family guy. He's a family man.
Yeah. What's next? Well, the fact that he was found at Home Depot with drugs and money. Well, he was just trying to make a living.
Right. He's a family guy. Wait a minute. Okay, I got the wrong show. I was going to say Family Guy selling propane and propane appliances, but I realized that's not it. That's not the same
Bobby.
show.
Yeah, no, not the same one. Yeah, way to go, Brian.
Yeah, so propane and propane appliances.
Yeah. It's I sell propane and propane accessories.
Accessories, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Accessories, yes.
Nope. It's the technically they're both family guys. But the whole thing is that they want to break the system so that they can pad the voter base. Because you're a bigot if you're pro voter ID. I mean, everything that they have done is about having permanent political power, having long-term control. And don't think that it's over just because of the greatest political comeback in American history. One guy did that, but keep in mind, the party he's affiliated with has a long history, especially recent history, of losing time and time again when they should be winning all the time. The left has convinced people, tens of millions, still today, that they're the party to vote for. So this isn't over. What was broken in 2024 leading up to Election Day is technically still broken and will be broken again, maybe permanently, if Democrats win power again.
Yeah. Because they're not changing at all.
No.
They're not moderating.
No.
At all.
At all.
None.
Nope.
There's no moderation at all in the Democratic Party.
Right.
And anybody in 2026 who is running on the Democrat side will have to lie.
Yes. Yep, they'll have to lie.
As to where they actually stand.
Yep.
You know, I think you're going to see this, let's pretend we're in the middle again.
Right. Yeah.
But even the middle back then, you know, they did that really till about 2006. And then you and I noticed a difference. I remember you and I both saying after that midterm when they won, it was like, whoa, look at these radical positions they're coming out with. Where did this come from? It's like, wow, they actually believe now the American public's going in this direction. And for a significant period of time, the American public accepted it.
Yeah.
The insanity.
Right.
And now it's going in the opposite direction. Hopefully.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, a story that really didn't get us. There was so much going on yesterday that a story didn't get its just due, but relates to everything that we're talking about. Because we viewed yesterday, it was interesting because we both came in and we agreed. Yesterday was a microcosm of what's wrong with the Democratic Party. And so you know, with the whole Garcia thing and everything else that happened yesterday, that we still have more audio cuts and we want to get into more detail. But a story that was really missed yesterday was that David Hogue, who is vice chair of the DNC, has now said we're raising millions of dollars to primary Democrat candidates who aren't liberal enough.
Interesting.
And it's like, so the Chris Cillizza will have his audio cut where he said, this is what some Democrats feared, and now it's come real, that they're just going to go bat soup insane, that the problem is that the Democratic Party, according to David Hogue, is not liberal enough.
Yep.
But before we get to that, let's get to this audio, because this is just great. Sean Hannity yesterday interviewed Taylor Lorenz, former Washington Post reporter.
Right.
Nut job herself. And she did a podcast last week where she was talking about Luigi Mangione, who was accused of killing the healthcare CEO. And she was saying that, you know, how, you know, he is good looking and women are attracted to him. And there's a philosophy that he's bringing out. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Well, she's trying to back off on it, saying, well, that's not what I believe. So Sean Hannity decides to ask her a direct question that she cannot answer. Here we go.
Okay, simple question. Do you condemn that? Can you take a moral stand and condemn that?
What I condemn is the violence of our system, and I would love for you to acknowledge that.
I'm not asking you to condemn the system. Taylor, do you condemn people that call for assassination?
Gosh, you're going to ask if I condemn Hamas next. This is crazy. I would love for you to acknowledge what I'm actually saying, Sean, and we seem to be talking past each other. I want to talk about the fact that half of all adults are delayed because of cost. We need to talk about that 70% of Americans, by the way, believe that the insurance company practices are responsible in part for Thompson's death. These are signs of an unhealthy...
You want to put a rationalization. I am saying anybody that wants to assassinate any innocent person is wrong. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican or a father or a husband, and I speak that is a simple truth that anyone with a heart would easily say on national TV that you're having a hard time with.
If you want to prevent further deaths and you don't want gun violence in the street, which I think we both are aligned in wanting, right? We want peace. We do not want violence in this country, no matter what side of the political aisle it's coming from. You need to understand motives and you need to understand the ideology that people have. And that is what my job is.
Why don't you first start with the basics? I'm going to help you out. Why don't you first condemn those that want to be involved in assassination and stop talking about them being handsome and smart and intelligent and
I didn't say that I believe that. I am describing his supporters who do believe that, and I think it's very important. Just the way that I would try to understand the ideology
Will you
of,
condemn his supporters?
People that march at
question.
the Unite the Right rally. I would try to understand the ideology of anyone that would advocate for violence in this country, no matter what
his supporters?
Once again, I believe in free speech. I believe in free speech. If they have not,
She can't answer it.
Nope, she refuses to.
I could answer it. You could answer it.
Yes. Yeah. We've said it, and we have to repeat it here, but now it's actually a serious position. We are against murder.
Yeah, when we brought that up, I don't know, a decade ago.
Yeah.
To show that we had a strong stand, that we would take a stand. I forgot why we did it, but it was like it became sort of a joke. We want people to know that we're anti-murder. Now it's no longer a joke.
Now it's an official position and a serious discussion.
Yeah. Or anti-murder.
Right.
Can you say you're anti-murder, that what happened here was wrong? I want to talk about violence in general.
I believe in free speech.
Yeah.
And she won't say it.
Yep.
She refuses to say it.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. So like we said, yesterday was just a microcosm of the insanity of the Democratic Party. And to show you where this is all going, Newsweek and others had this story yesterday. The Civil War in the Democratic Party ratcheted up another notch as a group founded by Democratic National Committee Vice Chair David Hogue said it plans to spend millions to unseat Democratic incumbents it believes aren't pushing back hard enough on President Donald Trump. Democrats have been bitterly divided in the wake of then Democratic nominee and Vice President Kamala Harris's decisive loss to Trump in the 2024 election. While some Democrats said the party had moved too far to the left and alienated moderate voters, many in the progressive wing argued the party had become too pro-corporation and abandoned the working class.
Yeah.
The divide just isn't ideological, but generational as well. There have been a growing calls for new leadership in recent years, with critics arguing that the party's current standard bearers, many of whom are now in their 70s and 80s, need to pass the torch to the next generation for the Democratic Party to remain competitive. The divide has been increased by what younger and more progressive Democrats view as a feeble response to the Trump administration, and has led to speculation that the party could be due for its own version of a Tea Party revolt from its base. Hogue, a survivor of the 2018 Parkland school shooting, is among the most prominent young voices in the Democratic Party and became the vice chair this year. Now the 25-year-old is leaping into the intra-party fray by spending $20 million to oust Democrat incumbents in safe seats. Leaders We Deserve, the grassroots organization Hogue co-founded, confirmed in a statement to Newsweek on Wednesday. Hogue said in a statement that he ran for his DNC position to help make the party better, which includes electing better people. Now, as we know, How has the Democratic Congress voted against Trump? 95 to 90, 95, 96, 97% to 100% against Trump?
Yeah, except for the traitor Schumer.
Yeah. Now, this is really interesting because, let me go here. This is Chris Cillizza talking about this, and he wrote this on X, and this is his post where he says, Democrats feared what electing David Hogue as DNC vice chair might mean. Those worries are now coming true. Here it is. Here's Chris Cillizza on this.
He is a very unorthodox candidate to become the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. Republicans rejoiced when this happened because they thought he was way too liberal, way too sort of out of touch with mainstream America, and would say and do things that would disrupt the Democratic Party. Well,
there you go. But let's get to the specifics of it. Where is he going? He believes that the Democratic Party, with the insanity that we saw yesterday of what their beliefs might be, which is a microcosm of what the Democratic Party has become, he believes it's not liberal enough.
Uh-huh. Yep. It's something we've witnessed over the years.
So it's not that you have a wing of the party which is raising tens of millions of dollars to have more moderate candidates because all the evidence shows that Democrats are losing because they're too radical. Their solution is to put someone in as a vice chair who's going to create a huge organization within the Democratic Party to put in more insane radicals.
Well, remember the gubernatorial election in Virginia, Terry McAuliffe lost to Glenn Youngkin, and Terry McAuliffe, the Democrat. And that night when the numbers were coming in and it was apparent that Youngkin was going to win, the liberal activist media was saying, well, the problem is we don't have enough radicals running. In other words, McAuliffe wasn't radical enough. We have to get more radicals to run, which is why we say, when, I don't know, people talk about, what we need is, that are Democrats that say we need to moderate more, we need to come back to the center, we need to whoever it is, Rahm Emanuel, whoever it is. We need someone who's more centered, and they point to Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania or something like that. It's not going to happen because the radical core is not about to let that happen. They're working, the party now is working, as they outlined it here, to actually find more radicals to run for office, to challenge those who aren't radical enough.
When you look at it, though, they're not really members of Congress that are saying it. They're people that are no longer in political office. They're analysts.
Right. Yeah.
The James Carville, for example,
Rahm
Emanuel, Chris Cillizza. They're not in government right now. They're not part of the elected officials of the Democratic Party.
No.
And it was brought up yesterday. I saw it. I'll find the audio. Harry Enton from CNN, dumped cold water on the narrative that Trump voters regret backing him. Said only 3% regret voting for Trump, and that's the exact same that regret voting for Kamala Harris on the Democrat side. So Democrats are still totally behind Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Completely behind her.
Right.
And so they look at it and say, okay, can you get more? Is she a radical? Absolutely. And why did she lose? Because nobody believed that she wanted to be more moderate. So David Hogue comes in and says, nope, let's make this, we're not insane enough. We've got to be even more insane. And so we need to challenge any of the, and I'm trying to think who might be, who would it be?
Well, I mean, eventually AOC is going to be too moderate. I don't know if that's the case right now, but eventually it will be the case. It's
I can see. Okay, we need to get rid of the old people. Because that's been out there. Schumer needs to go.
Yeah,
and Pelosi needs to go.
Everyone except Bernie.
But
in that regard,
but except for the continuing resolution, Schumer is as radical left as you can get.
Right.
If you're saying Schumer is the problem because he's too moderate, oh my God.
Yeah.
We need somebody more radical than Chuck Schumer.
Right. Well, is that my question? I would love to be a fly on the wall at the DNC.
Oh.
And I'm sure at the DNC, they attract a lot of flies, if you know what I mean. But I would love to hear, because what they're saying is that you have to project yourself as radical. It's not just good enough to be radical. You've got to get out there and really be insanely radical at every turn. And, this really stems from their approach on, the whole silence is violence thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you extrapolate that out politically, you should be shouting at the top of your lungs every day, all day. You should be showing your radical stripes every single turn and never stand down. And that's that's basically where the next level of that silence is violence goes. You have to be always on. You can't be in any state of being calm, cool, collect, heaven forbid, reasonable. And how dare you support a continuing resolution while Trump is president?
Yeah, it's just.
That's that was really. That is such a tell. That is really such a signal as to where they are. Again, it wasn't an abortion bill. It was a continuing resolution. And they had an opportunity to turn that back on the GOP, and we kind of lined all of that out. But that's never, it doesn't matter. You can't, and we had said this, by the way, we had made this point before that CR thing came down, that show me where any Democrats on Capitol Hill can vote with the GOP and not get just completely called out by the radical wing of their party.
But what was the reason?
There's no way you could do that.
But what was the reason that Schumer endorsed the CR? Is it because he agreed with it, or he understood that if they didn't pass it, Democrats would get the blame?
Exactly.
And he didn't want Democrats to get the blame for it.
It was his only play.
It was exactly. It was his only play. He just viewed it and said, if we don't pass this, we get the blame.
Right.
Because remember, the last time this happened, Democrats did get the blame. In the past, Republicans had got the blame.
Right.
Then Democrats got the blame. I forgot, was it during Trump? I can't remember. I think it was during Trump.
Yeah.
But when they tried, they're the ones that got the blame for it. Mm-hmm. And so he wasn't that he was for it. He just said, this isn't the hill to die on.
Right.
And to get the blame for shutting down the government for a continuing resolution for a budget that was the Biden budget.
It was supporting the Biden agenda,
right,
for as long as it was going to continue.
And as we had said, politically,
that's what you should have done.
If we were political consultants, and Schumer, sold it wrong, what he should have said was, well, of course we're going to endorse his continuing resolution because this keeps the funding for the things that Joe Biden and we thought were absolutely imperative that everybody voted for on the Democrat side before.
Yep.
And now you're voting against what you voted for. This is ridiculous. The Republican Party is passing a bill for the next 6 months that funds all the priorities of Joe Biden.
Well, and Schumer's big problem is he laid the cheese on the burger too early.
Exactly.
As usual. He said no, and then 24 hours later he said yes. Yeah. This should have been, by the way, knowing the way this is going to go, watching it how it was going in the House. Schumer should have been on the phone with Jeffrey saying, look, we're being cornered here. We know it, right? We don't really have a play because we're not going to sit here and keep the government closed. We're not going to do that. We know we're not going to do that. So the play is going to be this. In fact, I need you to be, as leader of the Democrats in the House, I need you to come out as soon as they pass it and say, we voted against it, but we will say this. At least the GOP recognized that the Biden agenda items need to still continue on, and then you pass the ball to Schumer in the Senate, and then Schumer says, well, we're going to deliberate, and the next day, after deliberating and talking with our friends, our colleagues over in the House, while this isn't the ultimate result that we wanted, we want to recognize the GOP for supporting the Biden agenda items in the budget.
Right.
And keeping them alive. At least we know that this big hoopla about Doge is just nothing but hoopla. And you would have people like Chip Roy in Texas shaking their head going, dang it. At least they got that moment, that soundbite out of it, right? It's not a win for Democrats, but it's better than how it ended.
Well, as we said, when we had said this before the vote even happened. This is what they should do. And I got a few emails going, guys, shut up.
Yeah, stop
giving them advice that would help them.
I got the same thing.
And what do we always say?
Yeah.
Don't worry.
They won't take it.
They won't listen to us.
They're not going to listen to us. Yeah.
And did they listen to us?
No,
they
did not.
never have before. But
no,
that's when we simply put on our political hats. We may not believe the stuff they're putting up, but we say this is how you should spin it.
Right, exactly.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, man. Letitia James yesterday, the Attorney General of New York, that the Department of Justice is looking, a criminal referral has been put into the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud. And I asked you before we went back on the air, I said, did you see any liberal outlet saying that the allegations against her are bogus?
No.
Did she say the allegations against her are bogus?
No, and this is why, if you think about who she is and the fact that she's a liberal, we'll get into this more after the top of the hour.
Yep.
She had, if she were innocent, has an advantage with the liberal activist media in proving her innocence.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. All right, so here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Letitia James.
Okay.
A new story in the New York Post.
Yeah.
New York Attorney General Letitia James listed a Virginia home more than 300 miles from her office in New York City as her principal residence in official public documents obtained by the Post. But neighbors said yesterday they've never seen her. According to Virginia property records, James granted power of attorney to her niece on August 17, 2023, authorizing the purchase of the Virginia property for which they secured a $219,000 mortgage. In the document, James attested, I hereby declare I intend to occupy this property as my principal residence.
That's where you're, by the way, that right there is where she would be looking to gain favor or favorable terms on the interest rate, because a residential mortgage is cheaper than a commercial mortgage. If you buy like a rental property, that's considered to be commercial property.
The document was witnessed by First Deputy Attorney General Jennifer Levy and a New York State secretary and notarized. The modest 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house is now home to a woman and her daughter who moved in just a few months ago, according to people in the neighborhood. Before that, a husband and wife lived in the house for about 4 years, said one neighbor, who has lived near the property for 18 years and asked not to be identified. I've only met the new resident like maybe 2 or 3 times. She seemed really nice, a neighbor added, of the new residents. The last time I saw her was like maybe a week or so ago, and she was just outside smoking a cigarette, and we were talking about her grandkids. It might have been maybe a little bit more than 3 months that she moved in, because it was just before. It's definitely not a year. The 1,450-square-foot home is at the center of a federal criminal referral for mortgage fraud, alleging that Letitia James falsified records to get a more favorable loan rate when she purchased the residence in 2023 with her niece. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director William Pulte detailed these and other allegations of James playing fast and loose with residency requirements in a letter to the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General obtained by the New York Post. The referral also accuses James, whose salary is $220,000 a year, of misrepresenting the number of apartments for a building she owns in Brooklyn, saying it has 4 units when New York City Department of Buildings Records says it has 5. That's a key distinction, because buildings with 4 or fewer units qualify for mortgages with better terms. Ms. James was the sitting Attorney General of New York and is required by law to have her primary residence in the state of New York, even though her mortgage applications listed her intent to have the Virginia property as her primary home. It appears Ms. James' property and mortgage-related misrepresentations may have continued to her recent 2023 Virginia property purchase in order to secure a lower interest rate and more favorable loan terms, Pulte wrote. Pulte said this could amount to criminal charges, including wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, and false statements to a financial institution, among others. On Wednesday, James' office said she bought the property with her niece. Her niece lives in the home as a primary residence, and the Attorney General has been clear she is not using the Virginia home as her primary residence because she lives in New York. The statement also lashed out at the Trump administration, saying Donald Trump's weaponization of the federal government appears to careen out of control. She herself didn't address it in this speech that she gave yesterday.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University that overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
No, ma'am. The question was on the allegations of mortgage fraud.
I love where she says that she bought the property with her niece. doesn't matter whether her niece, she was her niece from what we can, from whatever, everything else here, her niece had her, what do you call it, power of attorney to buy the house.
It's what she stated as.
It's what she stated that it was for her, and it would be her primary residence.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter whether her niece lives there. It says her niece lives in their home as a primary residence, and the AG has been clear that she is not using the Virginia home as her primary residence because she lives in New York. You've just incriminated yourself. You might want to take the fifth.
Yep. I would, in fact, stop answering questions.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it.
Stop, because you're doing damage.
They put out that statement.
The alleged criminal activity is constituted by her claiming that as her primary residence.
Yeah.
If you're saying she never did it, then why is that the case on the mortgage application?
Yeah, because she didn't clear up anything of the allegation at all. In fact, like I said, by saying what she said, she's giving credibility to the allegation that the Department of Justice has received.
Right.
Here's
the thing. She would have the complete support, we already know this, of the liberal activist media if she were to come out. Think about this. Any liberal who's accused of something and they're innocent of that and can prove it, you come out and you offer that proof. It's what I would do. I'm not a liberal, but I would offer that proof to defend my name, defend myself. These allegations are baseless. This is clear retaliation. And here's the proof, and I would hand it to the media. And she would get lots of play in the liberal activist media if she were to do that. So why didn't she do that? The allegations are false. Here's proof that they're false.
The letter also questions about whether James lied about the number of units in a 3-story building she owns in Brooklyn. The New York Department of Buildings certificate of occupancy says the building has 5 units, but James said on both the deed and mortgage that it only has 4. A dwelling with 5 or more units can only qualify for commercial loans under federal funding standards, meaning she would likely have gotten a better mortgage rate by representing the home
as a residence,
as having 4, as only having 4. A dwelling with, as we just said, a dwelling with 5 or more units can qualify for a commercial loan under federal funding standards.
Right.
Meaning she would likely have gotten a better mortgage by representing the home only containing 4. Because James' office said the Attorney General has been clear in her financial filings that this is a 4-unit owner-occupied building. The previous certificate of occupancy from January of 2001 that lists it as a 5-unit building was filed by a previous owner before the Attorney General owned the home. Well, that's not what they claim it is.
Right.
That's not what the claim is. The claim is she did it. She has claimed it, not that somebody else claimed it.
Right.
But James said on both the deed and mortgage that it only has 4. So it doesn't matter what a previous owner does.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just these statements she puts out. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, you should stop saying anything about it.
Let me see here. Mayor Eric Adams, speaking on MSNBC, when asked about it, said it's up to the investigative bodies to do an unbiased investigation, calling James a longtime friend and wishing her well. Asked whether he believes the probe is being launched for political reasons. He says James herself should address that, noting that he believed former President Biden's Justice Department was politicized, which Biden acknowledged as well as Trump. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, that's all. Nobody is addressing. I'm looking here, and, you know, I scanned yesterday to see if anybody is defending her, and everybody so far is staying away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's likely, even though I'm sure the liberal activist media wants to defend her, if you don't have the information in front of you, if you don't have the story straight, you certainly don't want to reach into that fire.
Well,
you just don't.
Maybe if somebody puts out, if the Trump Justice Department puts out that she's a suspected MS-13
yes, then
gang member,
then they'll jump on it.
Then the mainstream media and Democrats will jump out to support her.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wow,
it's so insane right now.
You know, remember when she filed the stuff against Trump? You had experts immediately come out, legal experts, and say there's nothing there.
Yeah. Right.
There's nothing. I mean, you had that immediately. And then the debate went back and forth. You don't see any debating on this.
No. No, you don't. It's not, it's not something. Again, I wouldn't. You got to kind of pick your battles here. They really don't know where to go. If you're somebody that's in the liberal media, you don't know where to go on this because you don't have all the facts in front of you. You may want to help defend her, but you can't do that unless you've got talking points and facts in front of you. And she, the accused here, in terms of the referral so far, she's not really defending herself well at all. Not at all. That's the thing. She could offer up documents. If she were innocent, offer up the documents and let the liberal media go to play in your defense. Right. They'll do it all day long for you. She knows that.
Well, I think you and I could present documents for our mortgages.
Oh, yeah.
To verify what we said.
Yep.
And put it to rest immediately.
Yep.
And everybody listening could do the same thing.
Yep.
You accuse me of mortgage fraud?
Right.
Let me go to my files. Here it is.
Right.
Here's my mortgage application.
Right.
Where is the fraud?
Right. Well, that's why I didn't put banjo player for Aerosmith on my source of income when I applied.
Well, that was embarrassing just for anybody to think that Aerosmith had a banjo player.
I wasn't going to put guitar player. Everybody knows that's false. So what do you do?
Yeah, just
tambourine. Well, that was Stephen.
What a story though, because of everything that she went after Trump for. Appraisals that were not at all
to gain favor.
Right.
For a gain a favorable rate, which is to gain. The estimate is it could be a full percentage point. I mean, I don't know actually the difference in the markets right now on a commercial loan versus a residential loan. What the rate difference is, but let's say they were accurate. I think it was the Wall Street Journal where I saw it was 1% and a full point, which is sizable. Certainly, it doesn't matter if you're lying in order to do that. It's what she was accusing Trump of, and then the whole it's 5 buildings, 5 units, not 4. Well, it's that Trump lied about the assessment of one of his properties and the size of it.
Right. Yep.
I mean, it's just bizarre.
And she did this in 2023, right before the trial of Trump.
Yes. It's just bizarre. If the allegations are true, what in the world are you thinking?
Well, any of the statements we just read to you, any of the statements she made, I'm thinking, I put my lawyer cap on, I'm like, shut up.
Don't talk.
Take the fifth. Don't talk.
You're making it worse.
You're almost incriminating yourself that the allegations are true.
The only thing you say is, the allegations are false, and we're going to prove that.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it alone otherwise.
Well, that's if you're guilty. If you're innocent, You say the allegations are false. Here's my mortgage application.
Yes, if you're innocent.
That's what I do.
I know. No, that's
right?
exactly what I do. We've been talking about that all morning.
And why? Because I don't want to last more than an hour after the allegation comes out. Where is it? Let me find it. I'd rip through my house would look like a hurricane hit it as I'm trying to find, all my mortgage papers.
Mm-hmm.
My mortgage application stuff.
Right.
I mean, I actually know where it is. But if I didn't find it there, because I would be absolutely panicking just to prove my innocence.
Oh, yeah. No, I would sweat this.
Last thing I do is be going on and giving a political speech.
Right. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. Fight the oligarchy.
That's right.
Interesting comment coming up from a former Bernie Sanders campaign staffer on that.
All right.
Saying he's only going for the white demographic, the white, very liberal demographic by doing that. And this is from a former Bernie Sanders campaign staffer.
Yeah. Wow.
And plus, the whole radical transgender movement and Maine and the Department of Justice filing suit. Oh, man. What a zoo of a day it was yesterday.
Yeah, crazy.
And then next up is today.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara along with Eric Harley. Good morning. All right. This is not meant to be salacious or risque in any manner or form.
All right.
It might be suggestive, but it's not salacious. Right. That is not the intent of this. This is sort of looking at a particular business model and what John Taffer might say on bar rescue.
Okay.
Because I read the headline yesterday, Hooters is ditching bikini nights for over 60 crowd and families. Hooters is going for an upgrade. We had talked about their bankruptcy.
Right, yeah. And they're selling back to their original owners, right? Is that how it's going down?
Yes, after a recent announcement that Hooters of America has filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy as part of an effort to enable a founder-led buyout and restructuring of the restaurant, the CEO of one of the 2 purchasing franchise groups told Fox News Digital of plans to make Hooters more acceptable to mainstream society. Neil Kiefer is CEO of Hooters, Inc., the Clearwater, Florida-based company that founded the Hooters concept back in 1983. Hooters, Inc. operates and owns 22 Hooters restaurants in Florida and Illinois and 2 more locations slated to open in Florida later on this year, and they're saying, we're doing fine. And they're doing fine. He goes, along with the other franchisee, the Hooters buyer group controls over 30% of domestic locations, including 14 of the 30 highest volume restaurants. Speaking to Fox News Digital, Kiefer shared how he saw Hooters of America run restaurants strain from the original founder's vision and making changes that were inconsistent with the brand, including uniform modifications and differing standards from location to location. For over 2 years, we've been complaining, Kiefer said, about the iconic orange shorts worn by servers, but we only had standing to complain. We could not rule how the restaurants were being run. He said the shorts, as conceived in the 1980s, were more of an athletic look.
That actually is true.
He goes, somewhere along the line, he said Hooters of America went to the more revealing shorts, which to us does not jibe with the neighborhood restaurant that some families choose to frequent. Now, this may be the suggestive part of the story here. Quote, you don't want to have a butt cheek in your plate, end of quote.
Well, that's true.
The shorts were...
Hey, waiter!
The shorts are supposed to be sized to fit appropriately. They're supposed to be athletic, not so much sexual.
Did he address the name of the franchise at all, ever? In that whole thing? Because I would start there.
Kiefer, for his part, said the over-sexualization of Hooters.
Yeah. Can we start with the name? I would just start there. I don't know. I don't know anything about business or whatnot.
He goes, has tarnished the brand's image and created a perception problem.
I have a question about the name. I'm just wondering, those aren't owl wings you're serving up there.
Well, he said this gave us an opportunity to explain, the bankruptcy, that we're healthy. That's the original restaurants.
Right, yeah.
We're a strong franchise, and all the other franchise communities are also healthy and strong. It just lays out what we need to do moving forward to keep the brand successful. That means catering to more than just an 18 to 50-year-old male clientele. So no wonder we don't go in there.
18 to 50?
That's what they say.
I'm sorry, was there an age limit?
Apparently
Okay.
They figure, well, most guys aren't following Doug Flutie and taking the testosterone supplements, so they're not really interested in going in anymore.
Yeah, 18 to 50, all right.
Yeah, my testosterone is 0. I have no interest, but I golf. We want kids. We want families. We want the over 60 crowd. We want college students. We want them all.
Well, but
did you ever, when Hooters first came out, I remember when I this is in the 90s, and I was working at a radio station, and we carried the Buffalo Bills. This is in Buffalo. So we carried the Bills. We were the Bills radio broadcast outlet. So every single home game, I would do a huge party. And, there was actually a classic rock band that played Bills tunes. They played classic rock. And they had and they made up some of their own Bills songs.
Oh, all right.
But you'd have both. I mean, I remember some of the party. You'd have a couple thousand people out there, and it'd be a mixture of, the majority would be Bills fans, but the away fans, people that would come in from other places or were rooting for the other team, they'd be there too. Everybody was partying together, and we had one of the bounce, the what do you call it, the kids bounce
house,
yeah, whatever it's called, and everything else, and we always had the Hooters girls were always there, and I got to know all of them, and they viewed most of them were college students and did it, it was a job, did it as a job, whatever. And they were all just sweet and great and intelligent and all that. But even at that time, I never viewed Hooters as a family restaurant.
No,
just because of the name, I never.
Well, that's it. If the original owners are, saying, "Look, we have been wanting to change direction here." Well, do you really have in your vision, in this plan, do you actually imagine children saying, "Mommy, I want to go to Hooters"?
Right.
I mean, that's not. It's the name is the biggest problem. I think if there is an issue with the franchise that may have been generational, then I think it starts with the name. Because there's no way to get around the name. It doesn't matter what you do to change the image. You have female servers, and your place is called Hooters.
And there is cleavage.
So there's not anything to discuss other than that, because that's what's in the top of people's minds, and it might be generational. It might be that, okay, the joke is over. It's not going to, or that you're not focused on the 18 to 50-year-old male enough. I don't know. I can't tell you what works in that age group advertising-wise, but I can tell you that if it's generational, it's not going to be healed unless there's a name change. None of that can be fixed before changing the name.
Well, you can have an owl symbol in there and nobody buys it.
Exactly.
It's like with Twin Peaks and you see the little mountain range.
Well, like I said,
nobody believes that's a outdoorsman.
Like I said a few minutes ago, you're not serving owl wings. That's not why you call it Hooters.
Owl wings.
Yeah. Because that would be, I could see a kid asking that, are these owl wings? Well, no. Well, why do you call it Hooters? Why is there a picture of an owl up there?
It was the dumbest concept I ever went into. Does Coyote Ugly still exist?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Where they dance on the bar. Oh, I can't remember. For some reason, somebody I know was playing there one time. Mm-hmm. They were playing, their band was playing, and I went to see, and they were doing the stuff at the bar, and I went, this is just weird.
Yeah. Because they wanted it to be like the movie. I never saw the movie. I saw clips of the movie over the years, here and there. I didn't sit down to watch the movie. It didn't look like a good movie. I don't know why it became a good idea for a franchise based on the movie.
Yeah, I just always thought that was dumb. I guess my point was, what's the point?
Yeah, right. Well, theme restaurants, there's an issue regardless of where you go with the theme, where the theme is from. Well, the late Toby Keith had, I don't know how many locations they had, and I think they're still open. I Love This Bar and Grill, based on one of his songs, right? You had the Cabo Wabo Cantina in Cabo, but also the chain that was started by Sammy Hagar, and then he sold off that entire brand later. But, again, look at the Hard Rock thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a destination, it's one thing. They did it in Vegas because they were able to bring music acts in. Okay, that makes sense, right? If you're going to go watch a residency by Cheap Trick at the Hard Rock, okay, that makes sense. If you're doing it as a music venue, as a place to get a burger, there's a guitar on the wall. They say it belonged to so and so.
Yeah, nobody really cared.
And
it didn't make it in Dallas,
right? They have a couple of casinos, you know. You go up, you see the Elvis outfit, you know, Vegas outfit, and it's like, okay, and you know, you got to at the end of it, especially in casual dining right now. There's one chain that's doing pretty good, Chili's, and most of the casual dining, though, is hurting. Red Lobster, you've seen the stories there, having to shut down a number of their locations and come in and revamp the menu and everything else. But casual dining in general just has kind of gone by the wayside. And Hooters fits in that. Well, if you're trying to change who you're targeting, honestly, I believe you have to start with the name.
Yeah, I just wonder, because, you know, Bar Rescue, you and I haven't watched it in a while, because I think once you watch it, once you see 100 of them, it's like, okay, it's the same old. These people are completely clueless. They have no idea how to run a business. Been there, done that.
Right.
And then, okay, in about 30 seconds, Taffer's going to be screaming, and then in another 10 minutes, he's going to sit down and be calm and rational. What's your real problem?
Right.
And so, I mean, you sort of figured out what it was.
Right.
You know, but these people were clueless of how to run a business. And I think there was a sense of perverted awe that people would be that stupid. That would be in a business and would have no clue what they're doing.
Right.
And didn't mind to be losing hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you and I have talked about it before. If I was in a restaurant or, you know, any other business, and let's say we're making $10,000 a month, and a year later we're down to $7,000, I'm concerned at that point, and that's profit. If we're making it, do I let it get to a number of months where I'm losing $10,000 a month?
Right.
No. That's what amazes me when people do that.
Yeah.
And so that's fascinating. By the way, there are still some Coyote Ugly saloons open in some locations. I guess they say, I'm reading here, some Texas locations have closed. The one that I went to, this is like 23 years ago. 22 or 23 years ago, Commerce Street in Dallas, that one closed. But they still remain open in San Antonio and Austin. They've expanded in the UK. Wow.
All right.
I just thought the concept was stupid.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumb.
It wasn't the biggest movie ever, right? So I don't know how they got, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, John Goodman was in it. It's 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Because our show ends in an hour. After our show ends, our show becomes the podcast. That's right. We record the entire show. It becomes our podcast, and you can get it on our Red Eye Radio app. And if you can't listen to one of our great radio stations while the show is on live, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app. Coming up, I can't believe this. This audio cut that I have, I'm just shaking my head because you and I asked the question, after everything that we now know about Garcia and his MS-13 affiliations, that actually immigration judges said, yeah, he has it. The Democrats are still willing to fight for this. This is nuts. I have an audio cut here from Senator Von Holland. This is nuts.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.